Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deceive Reality Podcast. I'm David Peace. I'm joined by Steve Spade again. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. It's like we haven't been talking for the last hour. It's amazing.
In the illusion.
And we've got a very special guest this week, Jake Keane. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, man. I dispute the very special, though.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very special. The host of the Black Art Magic podcast. I think there's somebody else on it as well, but I can't remember who that is. But yeah, the host of the Black Art podcast.
Yeah, we got a little known Welsh magician from a very small town to co-host it. You know, just kind of as a favour. You have to have one.
Yeah, up and comer. It's really what we have there, so that's good.
Just dipping his toes into the world.
Absolutely. So we always start asking Joe like how people got into the cliche questions of how you got into it. But with the sort of magic that you do, where it's more like the mentalism, mystical, real stuff. So how did you get into magic, and then more how did that be the area that you really gravitated towards?
So I really, really wish I had a better answer than this. But it's kind of you ask a cliche question, you get a cliche answer. I mean, I obviously had the Paul Daniels 100 magic tricks in one set when I was, 5 or 6. To be honest with you, I saw a recording of David Copperfield floating around when I was about 4 or 5. And then I wanted to watch more. So my mum and dad kind of found recordings, VHSs that people had taped of the Statue of Liberty vanish, just little bits and pieces like that. And well, my nan was super, super into the occult and some strange supernatural things. And she kind of moonlighted every so often as a fortune teller in pretty rough pubs. And for the longest time, I classed that as something that was completely separate to magic. But in reality, a lot of the stuff that she was doing was mentalism techniques. Like my nan was a big fan of Banachek, and it's weird looking back on it now because as a child, I didn't really recognize how much we had in common with each other. But she took me to magic conventions when I was younger. I borrowed tons of books from her, and I think like a lot of people around the same age as me, I got into. I really wanted to start pursuing it when I first saw David Blaine make it look cool.
Yeah.
I think everyone has the story of seeing the first kind of whatever special it was you first watched. If you're around about the same age, there's one or two effects you see, and you just think, how is that possible?
It's the levitation. I was like, I'm going to learn to do this with the power of my mind. I will levitate.
Yeah. I remember a lot of unimpressed classmates in school when I first learned that. The very first levitation a lot of magicians learn.
I remember watching that special as well, and then what afterwards I learned the Balducci, and I remember I was just at the side of like a friend of mine's like apartment block, and he was like first year in college, and there was these kids, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to see something kind of cool or whatever?" So I did the levitation, and one kid was like super into it, like what the fuck, whatever. The other kid was just like whatever. He turned to the other kid and was like, "He's flying, you asshole."
You have to watch out when performing to kids because their eye line's so much different.
Yeah. It was on a kind of a landing, like kind of a fire escape type thing. So the angles were like perfect for one kid, but the other kid was probably like, "This is shit."
I always remember when we did it at the. It was after you did the Burned Alive stunt, and we were in a nightclub, and we were talking to people about magic, and I was like, "Oh, I'll show you something stupid." And I went to do the Balducci, and I did it as a joke, drunk. Yeah. And the people lost their fucking minds. So I started falling over and asking people to get me water. I went into like full Blaine mode of like, this is insane. I'm about to pass out.
It was really, you were like, I'll just do it. And I was like, okay, yeah. So you had gone like a couple of yards like in towards the dance floor, we'll say. But you turned your back to do it, thinking he turned around, like everyone was like, what? So it is a great effect though. I mean, it catapulted like Blaine, everyone was like, yeah, he's levitating, so yeah.
I think the best place to do that particular effect is when you just get one person's attention and you're on the periphery of a crowd, and everyone else is reacting to their reaction and going up and asking them questions about it. And like you, I would feign the, oh, I'm so tired from it. You'll have to wait. I'll regain my energy soon.
If you get me a whiskey and coke, maybe later I'll be able to figure it out.
Someone, please.
I need a kebab.
But when I was a lot younger and I started going to magic conventions, and I would have all the traditional kind of Paul Daniels stuff that I performed, the kids magic set stuff, and I actually had quite a pretty bad experience with older magicians. They were surprisingly ruthless towards someone who was quite obviously 9 years old.
Yeah.
And it put me off certain aspects of the community so much until 15, 16 years later. And I kind of played with stuff and created stuff in isolation away from certain elements of the community for a little while. I stopped buying certain releases because of a few people that I've met when I was younger who weren't very nice to someone who was quite obviously a child.
You did have the beard and the hair at the time, though, so...
That's very, very true. Sadly, I've been cursed with that since birth.
They're like, who's this really small old man?
It is true, though. It is a sad, it is a sad thing. It does happen. We've all, some people are more accommodating to people coming up, but I think other people feel threatened. I think it happens a lot, it's in certain, big names or whatever. But then there's some guys that you think are going to be like, oh, he won't give you the time of the day, and he's a nice guy in the world. So it's kind of it's a bit of a weird mixed bag. And then there's other people, like I know Paul Daniels. Everyone, you've mentioned him there, and I met him in numerous amount of times. But a lot of people have met him. But then some people have kind of negative things to say about when they meet him. And I'm like, I can't kind of comprehend that, because every time I met him, he was like the nicest guy in the world, and always Mr. Showbiz, And then other people are like, oh no, he was kind of standoffish or whatever. And I'm like, well, it's not the same person, So it's obviously how that person approached him to get his his backup or whatever.
Depends on the day too. Sometimes people come up to me and I'm just like, they're like, I want directions. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll help you. Follow me. I'll take you there. And then another time I'm just like, it's over there. Okay. I have a headache.
Everyone has bad days. Everyone has busy days, right? Sometimes you wake up and you're just like, I can't respond to a single message. I will not look anyone in the eye today. It's just not my day.
Yeah. It's better to not interact. Like if it is that situation with some people and like a young magician's asking advice, it's better to just be like, oh, I have to take a phone call and walk away, rather than like shitting on what they're doing the whole time. That's completely uncalled for. There's no need to shit on a little kid's magic, because like no kids are good.
No. I mean, well,
Ryland is good, but no.
There are a few kids at the moment who will come up and speak to me at conventions. They're so much better than I would ever have any chance of being at that age. They're better than me now.
Yeah. It's experience level too, because sometimes, like, even I was at the Black Book Magic Convention last year, and there was a guy, he was in his like probably 50s or something, and he was fascinated because he got SpongeBobs for the first time, and he'd never seen SpongeBobs before. So me and another magician was showing him stuff, and he was like, "This is incredible stuff." And it's like, to him, he was like, in magic terms, he's like the child in that situation. Even though it's like somebody is looking at him being at a convention for magicians, you'd assume he's been in it 20, 30 years and knows everything, but he's newly into magic and was just after discovering an incredible piece of magic. So it's like, you never know where someone is. Like, some people are 15 and they just learned about magic, and other people have been doing it since they were 5 and they're 10 years experience, so they can do more and stuff. So it really is, each person's on their own path.
I remember one of the first conventions I was ever at was in Dublin years ago, and there was an old magician there. I never got his name. I just met him briefly there. But he had a mouse trap, and he set the trap, and then hold it or whatever. And then he said, he put a coin like where you put the cheese. And he said, can anyone like reach in and grab it? So everyone was like, oh, I don't know, and they were all like cagey about it. And then he would just like reach over and just take off the coin, and it wouldn't snap. And all he was doing was he was taking the tension off the spring and just miming putting it back. He was just releasing the little catch and then setting it so it was gonna, cautious or whatever. But just that kind of old school kind of attitude to it. It was all in the presentation. Nobody was even going to go for the coin, because he had built up the kind of level. And it's cool when you see old magicians do stuff like that. It always kind of makes you think, because now kind of technically we're those old magicians when we're just doing like dangerous magic. Like, and then kids are like, I don't know, you shouldn't be doing that for like another 20 years,
Yes,
There is there is a certain level of I think forever class myself as a student, and I'm never going to proclaim mastery of anything. I am. I mean, someone like I know yourself, Steve. You are proficient in a lot of elements of the craft. I know you do escapology, the big PR stunt kind of stuff, as well as close-up mentalism. But I assume you're the same. You would never consider yourself a master of any of these crafts. You've got to be a little bit always the student, otherwise you're not moving anywhere.
Continually trying to master everything, but I suppose just as a kind of a branding thing now, everything's going to be classified as like a master magician, because I'm kind of dedicated to all the elements, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
living up to that in the same way of like Copperfield has gone down that road as an illusionist and things like that. Not saying that what I'm doing is Copperfield, but I'm just saying that it's just a different genres, and I'm trying to fuse it all into one.
Yeah, it's so different as well what you do, like, and that's where I see a lot of people lose it as well with team magic, is like how we refer to stuff to ourselves and how we refer to us to the public. Because even like Lance Burton being the original like master magician, and it's like he'd never walk into a magic convention and be like, I'm the master magician, bitches, fuck all of you. It's like it's a marketing ploy. You got to use it in marketing, and then in private you're like, how the fuck did you do that double lift? My double lift is shit. Can I see that? Your top change is so much better than mine. And then you go outside and you're like, I'm the master. Fuck everyone. I'm the best.
Yeah.
I love that dichotomy between the two, though. Like, I love the fact that if I go in somewhere and there's a layman, I am the mysterious stranger. But if I go to a jam with my friends, I'm like, I'm still shit at bent coin. Can someone help me, please?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny how we kind of let our guards down when we're in with other magicians or people that on the same kind of trajectory as you are, or whatever. But yeah, it can be fun just to kind of to see it from both sides of you, because you're always going to be the mysterious stranger to the lay public. They're always going to think, okay, this is all creepy, weird stuff. It doesn't matter what you do. Any you get that kind of title.
No, that's true. There's it is interesting, isn't it? When you have to think about your own personal branding, how much shame do you have around sharing that with lay people that you know?
It's awful. Yeah. It's awful when you have to share stuff on your own personal page and like your friends. Like, I have my like David Peace Magic stuff, but then I also have just my normal Facebook, but I have to share stuff there too, and it's like, the psychic entertainer can read your mind, and everyone was like, I saw you drunk the other day and you messed up that ambitious card routine.
Yeah. My dad messaged me the other day, and he saw like an announcement that I put up for an event coming in January on my Instagram, and he was like, can I share this on my Facebook? Dad, why would your friends be interested in your son's it was very strange.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting thing, actually, like sharing out, like, because you're doing the lecture thing in January, which should be really cool. I've got my ticket ready for it. But then it's well, because I even found the same when I was like sharing out the Coda piece, and I was like sharing it out to people. And I was even going like, I have the Deceive reality account for this, which is mainly followed by magicians, but then like my personal page is followed by like, I use it for advertising myself. So it's like, do I share it there? I'm like, what if my spectators buy it? And I was like, what spectator's going to spend €30 stupid magic download? I'm like, it's fine. But then I just keep getting taken the piss out of, which I said to the guys in the 1914 on the day, that there's a line in the trailer where it says, I ingeniously encoded. And any time anyone in my family now sees me, they go, oh, ingeniously, is it? Ingeniously? I'm just like, fuck off. Leave me alone.
It is. Whenever you watch a trailer and there's someone talking about the diabolically deceptive method, it's like, I bet your mum takes the piss out of you.
Yeah, 100%.
It actually reminds me of like when we were watching that the Louis Capaldi documentary. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
When he like has a new song and he sings it for his mom and his dad, and his mom and dad just shit all over it. They're just like, not as good as your hit. Like, what's that about? And it then brings you right back down to, you could be working on something brand new, and then you show it to somebody, close, and they're like, oh, I don't know, it's not. Why would you take that other thing out of your show and put this in? This is not half as good as what you. And I'm just like, oh, thanks. Get back to the drawing board. Where if you show it to, it could be a different reaction.
Yeah, I think that's so important, though. That type of friendship you have where it's like the WhatsApp group friendship where you're just ruthless with each other.
Yeah.
From a creative sense, I find that really important. It always reminds me of Penn and Teller. I remember an interview Penn had where he was talking about their magic wouldn't be any good if they got along with each other. Or if they both thought their idea was good, their magic wouldn't be any good. They had to they have to call each other out on their shit. Yeah. And I love it when other magicians are ruthless in a funny way, but they're also privately, it's not good enough. Like, we have to admit to each other.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than seeing it like you could see it at a convention sometimes where someone shows a trick and it was like, oh, that's incredible, that's amazing. And then the magician walks away and everyone's like, what the fuck was that? That was awful. They're like,
yeah,
like, don't tell him, because he's out thinking he's amazing and he might go do stuff. You're obviously not going to tell someone that shit to their face, but it's always about trying to find the right way to give someone like constructive feedback. But I think it's also important you have the relationship with the person that they want the constructive feedback, because otherwise you're just being an asshole. If someone's like, let me shoot this, and you're like, that was good, but what about this? And they're like, fuck you, I'm just like doing my thing. It's a hard thing to do.
Seasoned pros are in the position to give you that feedback, but probably won't, because they're just like, it's not worth the hassle of this. If this guy reacts badly to criticism, it's going to be, and I would imagine the majority would just be like, oh, it's great, well done, fantastic. It's very vague, but it's your friends in magic that will be like, no, man, that sucked.
It's the same in so many industries. I mean, there's such a thing as toxic positivity. If you're continually telling someone how amazing this new thing is, they are going to be 12,000 times more shattered when it gets the shittest reviews in the world.
Just watch X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, American Idol. All those shows were just historical. You'd be watching and being like, did their family not tell them they can't fucking sing? Like, Jesus Christ.
Why would you do someone on national telly? You know what I mean? It's fucking
Yeah. I think when you're funny with it, when there's a little element of that banter with it, it does help soften the blow of, you could have done better on this one part,
Yeah.
I mean, in the groups that I'm in, like the WhatsApp groups or the friends I have in Magic, will show an effect, and it will usually be equal parts. This part was amazing, but fuck me, dude, get better at one of the other part.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it seemed like we're working on the show for Steve and stuff, and we'd be putting Steve like, I have an idea for a show, and he said that to me, and I'm like, yeah, that shit, can't do that. And then we'd like move on, and then I'd be like, what about this? He's like, no, that shit, I'm not doing that. It's like, or even some simple things of being like, that's a object to impossible location, we have another object to impossible location, we can't do two. So it's just like, you need someone as well just to like, that you can bounce ideas off of seeing stuff. Because I think as well, we can always get too precious with our acts as well. Like, I know I can be like too clung to like this is what I do. This is what I always do. I got booked for a show. This is what I do. And it's like, no, I need to switch it up sometimes. And like,
yeah, I actually remember that in masterclass. He always talked about like, you got to take your best trick out and keep putting in another trick, and take out your best trick and then put in another trick. And then the end of it, you've taken out like 8 really good tricks, and now you've got a brand new show. Yeah, and it's a great thing, because these are all rehearsed pieces then, and it's not just like, a couple of tricks that you're doing. This is your act. This is what you actually do,
kill your darlings. It's the same as writing.
Yeah. I took out all my best act, and now my act is shit. That was the problem I had.
Now I have no act.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that trick went really well, I won't do that anymore. And then it's like, I just do the ambitious care routine and I'm done. It's great.
Yeah. You're shit at the moment. It'll be okay.
We get there in the end. With the stuff that you're doing with the lecture and stuff, for people who haven't heard, what sort of stuff are you going to be going through with that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to give too much of a hard sell. I'm not really that type of person, but because you've asked, thank you. It's a 2-part, 2-night lecture. Probably be about 2.5 hours in total, maybe a little bit more with the Q&A at the end. But it's social, casual, impromptu magic. The type of stuff that I know that you kind of like, David, stuff that you can do at a bar as a hobbyist, or you can do a lot of it you can do as a worker as well. And the first night is a lot more traditional stuff. There's a few kind of unique card tricks from someone who doesn't class themselves as a card magician. I always class that as a strength, not as a weakness for myself, because it means that I come up with some weird card stuff that I don't usually see anyone else doing, because I'm awful with the deck of cards.
Yeah.
And so the first night is more traditional kind of stuff. There's a little bit of mentalism. The second night goes a little bit more into the bizarre side of things, where there's this minimalistic, almost holistic mentalism, pseudo hypnosis. A lot of it is about strong narratives and storytelling. You know, the like Joseph Campbell kind of hero's journey approach to writing and structuring shows and routines, or even just sets, social sets, casual sets. But it's about the magic that I love, which is, you know, it's so cliche, but it's giving someone like a gift for 5 minutes, taking them to the side and saying like, you're never going to see anything like this again. I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I find that stuff's great when you're out socially, but also when you're like after a gig. Like sometimes I've been like, do you get put up in the hotel because it's too far to drive back at the end of the gig, and then you might be in the hotel bar and the people you were just performing for are in the hotel bar and stuff. So you might end up doing something like that, or meeting a booker, having a coffee. Those sort of things can be great, and really like you can go the extra mile and blow someone away and like give them that time, the dedication, rather than just having the like, I have my 5-minute sets and I have these many 10-minute sets and this is all I do. It's great to be able to have that sort of personal interaction with people. So yeah, it should be really good.
Thank you, dude. I really do hope so. I think I have the privilege of not having had to gig the past 10 years or so. I mean, occasionally I will still take on a job. If someone asks me to do a wedding or a party, I'll still go do it. But I haven't had to earn a wage through gigging the past 10 years or so. When I did it when I was younger, it was restaurant work, nightclub work, which was almost impossible, doing mentalism, and, you know, bars, pubs. And I have the privilege now of being able to think about something before I do it. But it's also a weakness because I feel like I've lost some of the skills that come with having those 5-minute sets that you can always call upon. They're muscle memory.
Yeah.
And working those back in when you've lived in the social, casual, let me show you something in the Ruskin that'll blow your pants off world is so different. It's so hard getting getting those muscles back.
I literally just had an idea for a nightclub trick. I was like, if you know the DJ just has a set that he runs through, get the DJ set so you have that, and then have all the songs in digital force bag. So have the person name a number. It's really loud, can't hear anything, and just keep forcing whatever the next song that's about to come on the DJ's play set. So they pick a song, and then 2 seconds later, that song just starts playing. Like, nice. You just need a DJ who's as lazy as we are when we're performing. That is like, this is my set list, and this is all I do.
Nice.
I used to work in a nightclub in Liverpool called the Crazy House, which is it was kind of famous amongst the alternative scene because it was a huge 3-floor nightclub with, you know, like a heavy metal floor, this indie rock floor, weird cheesy stuff on the top floor. And I don't mind saying this now because it's closed down, but at a certain point, every single DJ at work, they got so lazy that it was just a CD with the 20 sets for each, you know, 2 hours or whatever.
That's what you need.
I was a resident in a couple of venues over the years for nightclubs, and one of them was in my hometown here, Trinity Rooms. It's gone now, completely gone, but it changed ownership a couple of times. But my friend Johnny, he lives in Dubai now, but he was the main DJ there. So I used to often like give him a card, and I'd like just hang on to it or whatever. If I wave at you, just stick it to your forehead. So I just go in and just like force it on somebody else or whatever, and then have him. I'm like, Johnny, and he'd stick it to his forehead, and a big reaction. But when the sets would get longer, you know, and he'd do a lot of trance stuff, he put on like a track. It could be like, you know, a piece he cut together, could be like 14, 15, 16, 20 minutes long or whatever. And he'd just be eating like Jaffa cakes and drinking tea in the booth. And I just go in and be like, this is the best track ever. You see everyone like off their head on whatever, doing all this trance stuff, and you're just like, it's just a weird scenario to be in, But great crack though. Nightclubs, it is a challenge, but it's good fun. I think a lot of magicians these days don't really have that opportunity to be in the trenches like that. They all kind of go from a kid's magician to like try to be corporate magicians or whatever it is. They haven't really been in the nitty gritty with the kind of nightclubs, and people are like, oh, someone's getting sick. All right, I'll just go this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you need a bit of that. I think you need a bit of that to kind of toughen your set.
Yeah, I think especially venues like that, they help with your audience management so much. But from the same side of things, I try not to invalidate anyone else's entry into Magic, because I know that my entry is different to so many other people's, and I think there's too much of saying to people, "Oh, that's not the right way to get into Magic," and it's something that has been doing my head in lately. I've had to leave so many Facebook groups because, man, you know, if you're just getting into Magic and there's some 70-year-old dude telling you that you're doing it wrong, like, what the fuck are you on about, dude? Yeah. It's Magic. I know what I'm doing. It's Magic.
I haven't read Bobo's. Shock. What? I know, right? I didn't go that way. I learned coin Magic other way. And it's like, there's some books and stuff like, people like, oh, how do I get into Magic? Read this book. And you're like, no, I'm okay. It's written weirdly. Magic books are so hard to sit down and read anyway. Like, I brought Prism with me on holidays this year. I was like, my wife brought books to read, and I was just like, I'd read one trick and then I'd want to go like practice it. I'm like, this is such a bad like sit down and read book. It's not gonna work. But like, I think it's interesting as well of like when you're getting into Magic, it's about different people coming into Magic are gonna bring different ideas from it and that sort of stuff. And I think that's where you can really get like, you can learn so much more by having people from like different backgrounds, different experiences getting into it. I think there is things of like, everyone needs to have, especially if you want to perform professionally and you want to be doing gigs, everyone needs to have the rough gig where everyone's a heckler. And because then afterwards, now you can deal with hecklers. Because when you have the one occasional heckler, that, like, we always get one, you can get that and you can do it. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, now it is the card. What? Okay, bye. Or something like that. And then you get like maybe like one of them every 3 gigs or something, and you're never prepared for it. But then you do a few nightclub things, even performing casually in nightclubs, everyone's a heckler. And it's like by the end of that night, you're like, now I have 20 heckler killers that I'm good to go, and I can always drill them through. Because it is that's sort of like the performance side of it. So I definitely think like tricks can be something that you can get into and get different things. But then it's just like, there's so much life experience that you need from a performance point of view, because you need to ooze confidence, especially at like a corporate gig where there's people sitting around tables and you're just trying to interrupt their conversation and be like, look at me. You got to do that without confident enough to get them all to shut up, but also without being an asshole. And like trench time is the only way to do that, because you're gonna fuck it up a lot.
Yeah, it's a weird paradox as well, right? Because you need those rough gigs to actually wake up the jazzing and riffing abilities, to be able to think, okay, shit, I got the wrong card, but if I come back to it in 2 tricks, then I can say it was to do with this other trick, and to build up those kind of muscles.
My thing with that was because nightclubs, because it's just dark and stuff, it was just like, if I cut it right now, I can Mercury fold it and drop it into his point. And you just do that. Like you said, that jazz magic. It almost becomes like more like real magic. It's kind of like what your stuff with the storytelling and that kind of like drawing people in. It's kind of what they perceive as real magic. It's like it didn't go exactly right or whatever. This is years ago, obviously, but like what didn't go exactly the way you wanted to, but it became magic. They're going to react a whole different way that if it was a set piece, scripted perfectly. There's no jazz feel to it at all. I think jazz magicians, it's an art in itself. I think it's a tough one to crack, but once you do, you are kind of unstoppable.
I've a routine that I do like constantly, and I literally came from people just not listening to me. So I was 18 on holidays and I was doing tricks for people, and I was like, pick a card, and 2 people picked cards, and I knew no tricks where 2 people picked cards. So I just jazzed and came up with a way of revealing it, and then I revealed the first person's card twice and then turned it into the thing, and that's the whole like routine. And it was I developed it on the spot while having it done, and I now do it at pretty much every gig. It's like one of my go-to pieces that gets a reaction, and that never would have happened if I didn't know how to think on my feet. Well, one of my favorite things to do is have someone pick a card, and as I'm controlling it, I'm deciding what reveal I'm going to do. I'm like, will I do a triumph, or will I do a character pocket, or will I do character impossible location, or will I just do a double lift, snap, and bring it back? I don't know. Let's figure it out. We'll see. Oh, I've controlled it to the bottom. I guess I'm doing this thing, and it's just like let my hands do stuff and figure it out from there.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you can't say enough about how important that is in pretty much most areas of Magic. I mean, maybe not so much the stage stuff where you've got it down to the point where nothing can go wrong, but there's no world where nothing can ever go wrong.
I think something's gone wrong in pretty much every show I've ever done. Like, but to different levels. Like some things I'm like, that went wrong. People like, I didn't notice it. Like most times the audience don't notice because they don't know what the trick is. But it could even be like thing for me. I'm like, oh, my Sharpie was in the wrong pocket. And I had to put my hand into both pockets and it looked bad. And I'm like, oh, something went wrong. And people are like, it didn't really. I'm like, it shouldn't have happened. But then other times it's like the spectator wrote down a name that I can't read, and now that's something that's gone wrong, and then you really need to figure out a way of getting out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it also helps you work on the kind of your reframing techniques, because I've messed something up before and just said, and then this happened, which didn't happen. I messed it up, but I just said to them, okay, so this has just happened, and they were like, yep, it did. You speak reality into existence.
I think it depends on the environment as well. I feel like it's so much easier to do that with adults. Kids don't buy it.
No,
they'll call you on your bullshit. I'm like, I hate performing for kids. I was like, I can't do it. Don't want to. They don't like me. I don't like. It's just like it's not gonna work. And it's like because I can't get away with my usual like bullshitty way of like getting through. It's like even I've got younger cousins who are like, that's 2 cards. And I'm like, screw you. Just like carry on with the routine or whatever.
What's the pension?
Yeah. Like I did a character impossible location. I was at my grandmother's 80th recently, and they were there, and the one that was like, make the carrot appear in the big 80 sign. So I was like, I'll do it in a while. So I loaded a duplicate there, forced the card, and she went, you've got 2 jack of spades. I was like, screw you. It's like no one it's ever got like duplicates out something people think about.
Yeah.
Kids will just call you out.
Yeah, I tend to never perform to children unless I'm forced to. The one time I don't mind doing it is when it's family, or at a friend's wedding and there's a table of kids. I'm quite happy to go over and sit with them and bust out some sponge rabbits or something. But usually I tend not to because, like you say, you just can't get away with the bullshit.
Yeah, I shoot black sponge balls now.
In the job I had previously, the boss's grandson came in one day, and he's about 4 or 5 years old. And the boss just looked at me and said, "Look after him for a few hours, show him some magic tricks." I mean, okay, I head up all the advertising and social media, but okay, I'll just babysit your grandson for a while. And I just couldn't think of anything to show this little guy. I ended up showing him Beyond Reform. And he was just like, yeah, you probably just glued it. I was like, yeah, maybe I did, but...
And then the same kid will be like, oh my god, the Tooth Fairy's coming tonight. You're like, fuck. You buy into this, but not my one? That still bad blows my mind as well. Like the sleight of hand of like to be able to get like money under pillows while people are sleeping and swap it for a tooth. I don't get it. Like I'd be shitting myself if I did it.
There has to be some weird, creepy close-up trick where you turn teeth into coins. There has to be some effect there.
Just have like a necklace with like a tooth on it, and then just wave your hand and it becomes a coin.
Oh, I thought you were going to suggest some kind of like pulling the tooth out and then it turns into a coin on the necklace.
If you were missing a tooth, that would be cool.
That'd be cool.
I'm missing one back here.
There you go. New routine coming in the lecture. It'll come along. But yeah, I think that sort of stuff is like, it's so important to be able to know what areas you want to perform in as well. Because that's the other thing as well of being like I know when I first was doing magic and stuff, I started off like I was top balloon animals and all that sort of stuff as well. And then I was going out doing corporate stuff, and then being told like, oh, you should do the kids' parties as well, they're good money and stuff. I was doing, I mean, like, these kids are mental. They don't respect me. Nobody respects me. This is awful. I'm just babysitting hyper kids. And then I go and I'm like, I hate this. I hate magic. This is awful. And then I go do a corporate or a wedding. I'm like, I love magic. This is great. And it's like, you got to find the bits that you enjoy as well. Because if you start doing it, it's as I always say, it's like, because Steve's doing it full time, I'm like part time. And it's like, the reason you do magic is because it's better than any other job. And if you hate it, then just go get a normal job. It'll be easier.
Yeah. I can't imagine ever getting to the point where I'm 70 or 80 and thinking, like, just phoning it in.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why it happens, but I feel like 30 years after I fell in love with it, if I'm still in love with it, I think it's probably meant to be.
Yeah. It's an addiction, I think, more than anything else. I just can't stop.
It costs about as much as an addiction, yeah.
Yeah.
Black Friday cost me a lot of money. And so did the Midwest Magic Convention before that. I bought too much stuff.
Oh, I'm gutted I didn't get to go to that.
I loaded up the tutorials for Cube 52 and went, that's too long. I like, Craig taught one trick in his lecture. I'll just keep doing that. That'll be fine. Oh, fast forward to it. But yeah, it was quite good. There was a lot of good stuff. And it's one of those small ones where everyone's hanging around the bar afterwards and stuff. So it's great. It's where you get to see the real stuff.
The kind of 1 day kind of conventions are great, or 2 day kind of conventions, like the lads convention and things like that before the smaller ones. Because sometimes you kind of get lost in the mix in some of the bigger ones, and then you get pulled in. You never really see anything because you meet somebody and then they're like, oh, you got to meet this person, and then But with the smaller conventions, it's more kind of community based, I guess, and everyone's just kind of chilling out and having a laugh. There's less kind of pressures on or whatever.
Yeah, like at Blackpool, you meet people and like, oh, I'll meet you again tomorrow, and then you never see them again for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, the rest of your life.
They might have even existed in the first place.
It's absolute madness. But you've recently gone into the sort of full-time magic realm now. How is it feeling? Did you get the relief? Because I did it for 6 months myself, and the relief when I first did it was just like, because I got out of a job I despised and was getting to the point of like, if I don't fall asleep, I don't have to get up and go to work. In that sort of environment, and you just get the relief afterwards of doing it.
I mean, literally the start of this month, I was still in full-time work in an office in a car dealership, doing all of the like videography, advertising, and I genuinely was at lunch. I would go to a car park and just start crying. I couldn't handle it there. I was on the verge of, I'm pretty sure, what would have been like the last breakdown of my life.
Yeah.
So on the 7th of this month, I just I told my boss, "You make me want to kill myself," and then just walked out.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, thankfully, I've somehow landed on my feet, thankfully, because I've got some stuff coming out soon. I've got this lecture coming up, and there's stuff planned for like 4 or 5 months from now. There's filming's been scheduled for things. There's at Blackpool. I think I'm going to be in Blackpool for 2 weeks next year because there's filming either side of it for projects. So thankfully I've half landed on my feet the past couple of weeks, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to feel any shame if in 2 months' time I think, shit, I really need to pay rent.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's the way I always said. Like I did it. I was in a similar spot in my job, and literally there was one night where I was in a nightclub with like my now wife and a few of her friends. I was on the dance floor and I just like stopped and was looking, and I ended up getting kicked out because they thought I was hammered. I was drunk, but I wasn't like that. I literally just had like this thing and I just lost it and like crying and stuff as well. Just like, I can't do this anymore. And that was a Saturday.
Well, that was the craziest thing.
Yeah. And then it was literally the Monday I walked in, handed my notice, and was like, I'm done. So I did magic, and then after 6 months, we were like, we should really look at buying a house. And I was like, yeah, I do miss money. So I was like, but then I was like, I knew what I wanted when I went back to work, and was like, if they don't meet my needs, I'll just quit again and go do magic for a while. And it's great having that safety net to be able to go back and see, like at the moment, my job, like it's grand, but I get to work from home, so I have the freedom of that sort of stuff. So it's like I'm like, if anybody ever wanted me back in the office full time, I'd just be like, no, I'll go do magic and lose all my savings again, but it'll be fine. We'll get there.
There's always a way out, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not worth, as I was saying to my wife recently, is that there's no job that's worth your mental health. It's like, it's the most important thing we have, and you can't be going through the situation where it's like you're in a situation where it's like you're being forced to go into this thing that you just don't want to do anymore. Like,
Yeah,
you'd always find a way.
I'd rather be on rations and have the bailiffs after me than be, floating in a river somewhere. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
It's the way the kind of podcast kind of happened. To be honest, Jake, during the pandemic, we started initially. It was just kind of reach out to each other and just see, you okay, man, kind of thing, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the world was in chaos, and then we started reaching out to magicians just to see kind of how they were, and it kind of became a podcast. Initially, it was just me and Dave just chatting, and then we're like, maybe we should start seeing, what other people want to talk to us or whatever. And then we reached out to like people like Michael Lamar, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." And we're like, "What the fuck? Why does he want to talk to us?" And then it just sprung from there. It went crazy. But it initially it was just kind of reaching out to people and things like that. We're all showmen. We're all on stage. We're the life and soul of a lot of parties and things like that and events. But people's like normal day-to-day mental health, whatever issues, you kind of forget that they don't see that as a performer sometimes. So that's kind of what it was. We were trying to reach out to people as a whole.
I found that even recently when I did a tarot reading at a Halloween party, and I was booked there to be there for 2 hours for people, but they ended up that everybody wanted, so it ended up turning into like a 5-hour gig in the end of just sitting there giving people tarot readings. And afterwards, the boss was like, everyone wants like you to come back to give readings every Friday for their mental health and stuff. And it's like it's just these things that you could do. It's like even like some of it's just the entertainment, because I always have like, this is just entertainment as I'm reading your tarot and that sort of stuff. But also it's just like having someone listen to you and like actually just listen while you can play and feel at ease. So you can just let everything out and stuff like that. It's important for people. Because obviously every day people are going to have some shit days at work, some good days at work, even in magic. That sometimes you go to a gig and it's just like, it's the last place I want to be. But it's time to put on my performance face and go through it and like by the 20th table, especially.
Yeah, dude, I genuinely, that is part of why I love magic so much. Coming at it from the mentalism, mystic kind of aspect, when you give a reading or when you have an effect that is meant to be a little bit more intimate and holistic, there genuinely is some therapeutic value to those one-on-one little moments. I went to a house party a couple of weeks ago, just randomly invited out the blue. Will you come and show my friends some magic tricks? It was like 11:30 at night. I was like, I don't really want to. And she was like, it's just 10 girls. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come. And I was testing out, do you know Vinny from Neo Magic?
I know Neo Magic, all right. Yeah.
So Vinny has an effect called Ouija, which is really, really cool effect. It just looks like it's a little packet trick. It is beautiful for readings. It allows you to, they think of a question that they would like to, know the answer to. And it allows you to know what question they're thinking of so that your readings can be completely honed in and tailored. So I was testing that outside with a girl who was smoking. 2 days later, she got hold of my number from her friend because I'd never met her before and texted me. And she was just like, hey, this is her name from the house party the other day. I've been deciding whether or not to text you just because I didn't know whether you'd think it was stupid. But I really want to thank you. You have no idea how much I needed to hear what you told me the other night. And it was all just, whenever you do anything like that, you're looking for their own self-reflection in the words that you're saying.
Yeah.
It's never, I am telling you that this is the fact. It's what can you pick up? What resonates with you in what I'm saying right now? And what do you think of that? That they make the effect themselves when you come at it from that angle. But dude, I haven't had that done to me myself in the past as well. Even something as simple as, I remember Christian, the first time Christian performed Enigma to me, I felt like crying because I just felt so warm inside. It's so important.
Yeah, because I even found that recently, like when I was over in Nottingham, I was out in a nightclub, I was talking to one of the girls who was happened to be around. I was doing some mentalism stuff, and then she was like, I mentioned that I do readings, and she was like, just read me now. And we were just standing outside, and she was like, had an alternative look and that sort of stuff. I just went through, like, basically describing people I know who look like her, and just started describing them to her, and she was just like, literally, like nobody's ever like known me so well by just doing that thing. And it's amazing how like it's just the person gets the validation that somebody sees them at the end of the day, and that's all people really want to do, like, is to feel seen and understood.
Yeah,
and
they want to be recognized.
Yeah, it's such a powerful tool, and it's one of those things that you're like, sometimes you can get yourself being like, oh my god, I am psychic, actually. No, that doesn't make it. I have to. And you're like, oh no, that's wrong. I even find that with tarot reading sometimes. I have to mentally swap the cards. So I'm like, that was too accurate a reading to their question that I didn't know at the time. Those cards, how did this card come up for that question? And then I start swapping the cards, being like, oh no, it still works. Yeah, it's okay. it's just how clever tarot is an art tool.
You have to do that, man. You have to believe that you're the best. You know,
yeah.
Before Muhammad Ali's first fight, he wasn't talking about how shit he was. He was the fucking greatest.
Yeah.
Like I suffer with my self-confidence and my self-worth so much. Most days I think I'm awful. I don't think I'm a very good performer. If there's anything that requires any kind of dexterity, I feel like I'm too clumsy. I get the shakes sometimes. Even a double lift, sometimes I'll fuck it up. I've done it for nearly 30 years. I mess it up too much. But sometimes you just have to tell yourself, nah, man, I'm going to kill this now.
Oh, 100%. That's all you can do. I find that thing when you get the, like, you can get the nerves and stuff, and you're just going to go into, you have to have that belief, especially when it comes to things like hypnosis or that side of things, because the reason hypnosis works is because you tell people that you can hypnotize them and they believe you. If they don't believe you, it's not going to work. That's like the situation it is. If you come up and be like, oh, I think I can hypnotize you, you can't hypnotize them. If you go, I can hypnotize you, and you're hypnotized, it works.
Yeah.
It's just all about the confidence to just really like sell that to people and get them going. So yeah, it can be quite bad when you can see that sort of stuff with the confidence. But yeah, I think you've got the good dexterity in the end. You pull it off.
Thank you, brother. It is a strange one because I never mind acknowledging nerves or anything at all like that with another performer, with another magician, with another creator. But there is no sense of that whatsoever when it's a layman. I have to just know that I'm hot shit, even though I'm not. And I never will be.
Yeah, I always have the thing, like, I've got, like, there's music and stuff like that can help. I find it helps me. That gives me, like, one of them is the Pokemon theme song. Got my Pokemon hoodie on. So I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. You know, it's like that side of things. Sometimes going to gigs as well, like when you're sometimes you're just in that mode where you're like, oh, I don't feel it, or you're going to a house party, somewhere to perform. I just like, I don't feel like doing it. And it's just like, I play the playlist and then I'm ready to go. I'm in the vibe. I'm feeling like hot shit again. You can go in and put it off.
You're Batman putting on his eyeshadow before he puts his mask on.
Yeah, 100%. We were just talking about as well, Steve, like if you had the thing recently where you were doing the hypnosis gigs and you hadn't done hypnosis in such a long time. Yeah. We're talking about how, like, without confidence, hypnosis just doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still do a little bit of hypnosis throughout different sets and stuff, but doing a full hypnosis kind of show and things, I hadn't done it in a while. And it was just a matter of just being like, oh no, I can do this. I do this. I can do this. You know what I mean? It's just, you kind of forget. And I think I'd done a lot more than pre-pandemic as well. And I think that was kind of some of it as well. But yeah, 100%. It's like you have to believe because they'll believe, kind of a thing. In every kind of walk of magic. I know Banachek talks about that as well a bit. Like, you know, if you act like the mentalist, you are the mentalist, you know.
Yeah, I think that's important of openers as well. I think in magic we don't talk about openers enough, or even like the opening 2 or 3 effects. We always love a closer, and everything's sold as a closer in the marketing. It's like you need that opener that you know that you can hit every fucking time. That even when you're shitting yourself with nerves to begin with, once you hit that and get that reaction, you're like, okay, I'm good now. I love this. This is great. But it's like, if your opener isn't something that you can hit, you don't want to have something like less sleight of hand, less like, that's why wave is such a great opener, or B wave, because it's almost self-working. You just need to remember the orientation of the 4 cards and you're good to go. And you don't have to like think about anything. You can just do it. And the last thing you need is a complicated opener.
It's funny as well, like some of the stuff that Max Maven created card magic, especially for not a card magician, it's just incredible. Like, I mean, because there's card magician guys that wouldn't have thought of those premises, but he thought of it coming from a mentalist point of view, and they become amazing card tricks.
It's when someone from a different genre attempts something else, you always get interesting results. You know, I mean, I'm sure if a famous horror director made a rom-com, it's going to be really fucking weird, but probably interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
We should start designing coin tricks.
I have a mentalism coin trick.
I still have a goal. I mentioned to Rich Relish last time as well. I have a goal to come up with a mentalism SpongeBob routine, and I'm going to do it. And that's the challenge I've set myself. It needs to be like a good mentalism thing.
You can 100% do like an oddball type routine with SpongeBob's, 100%.
Yeah, there's definitely something there because
but it's just switching regular. You know what I mean? So it's not much of a new idea, but like you could substitute.
Do you know those SpongeBobs you can get where you turn them inside out and they turn from one color to the other color?
Oh yeah.
If you have 4 of them in a bag, and you have 3 people take one out, and then you reach in like, oh, there's only one left, and you reverse it in the bag as you hand it to the last person who takes it, then the last person will have a red ball and all the other people have blue balls.
Yeah. blue balls. and that's what you call it.
Yeah, we call it blue balls.
That's perfect. I used to do a pseudo hypnosis routine just with some coin gaffs where I would convince someone that they had moved the coin from one hand to the other and they just couldn't remember doing it. And you could get away with something like that with sponge balls super easily. I'm going to remove the part of your memory where you moved to this ball here. You took 3 of the balls out of my pocket and put them back in this hand. And they're like, no, I didn't. I was like, no, you did.
Yeah.
It's like a proper 3-hour project now on SpongeBob Mentalism.
SpongeBob Mentalism.
We always, I have a friend, a young magician called Sam Sugarman, and we always take the piss saying he's going to give a Vanishing Ink masterclass on sponge balls because he loves those things.
I found it weird actually. I was at the like as I say, my grandmother's 80th last weekend, and I brought some magic stuff with me because I had cousins and family from in all over the country and internationally and stuff. So I brought just some stuff with me, and one thing was sponge balls for the younger people who are going to be there. And then I was doing it, and some of the adults were freaking out, and I was doing it for the adults, and I was like, haven't done sponge balls to adults in like forever, and they were losing their shit. And I was like, sponge balls are fucking sick.
Yeah, man.
It's like you forget a good there.
If you flick through David Blaine's book, there's a picture. I remember like magicians before were like, oh, sponge balls are for kids and they're clown nose and they're this and that. And then you go and you look at that book. There's a picture of David Blaine doing sponge balls for Jack Nicholson. That's all you. That's it. If you ever doubt sponge balls, that's enough. That sentence is enough. You know, he could have done any trick. And what did he do? He did sponge balls. You know.
That's what David Blaine's good at, though, because he made a bitten coin look cool.
Yeah.
God,
and if you watch him now, he's doing all at the moment for the New Vegas show, and he's just doing like 2-card Monte and stuff. But he's killing studios, like they're screaming and running out of place. He's doing very standard tricks that we do, like we all do all the time. But with a Blaine touch, they're like masterpieces.
Yeah, I still use the bend in the card ploy with an ambitious card. After first seeing it in that, just because you can't beat that visual.
Yeah.
It's that thing of like, as you're saying, like with the storytelling and the other stuff, it's also just giving magic importance. And so much time, I think we're all guilty of rushing through stuff. And it's like, that's what, like when he does 2-card Monte, it's like a 5-minute trick. And when we do 2-card Monte, it's like 20 seconds. And we're like, and you got the 2 queens, thanks. Okay, moving on. And if you can just like cut stuff back and go, because even like we were looking like we're working on stage shows, you'd go see Darren Brown, Keith Barry, even Blaine show, and you look at it going, they actually only did like 6 tricks in this 2-hour show. This is crazy. I have 6 tricks in my first half of my show. I need to like actually perform more and not just like bullet fire, machine gun fire through everything.
Yeah, Blaine really lets this what could be cliche material actually breathe. And he also kind of employs a technique that a lot of documentary makers do, which I do think is interesting, because his style of street magic was, when that first came out, that was kind of, you didn't really see that. It was like a documentary on the streets, the camera's shaking, and he utilizes some of the same techniques that Louis Theroux might use in an interview, because he doesn't say anything after they give their first reaction.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't say anything, they're going to give more. They're going to give more. They want to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
We feel too guilty for that, and we have to undercut it with like a joke or something stupid.
Yeah. I remember when Morgan Stripler was helping me consult a long time ago when I was doing some TV stuff here and a stunt here as well. And he's all about slowing down. All about slowing down. It's all about like looking and being, intense in the moment, whatever. Like Morgan is like the best person in the world to stare you down. You will not blink. There's no way he's gonna blink before you are. That's just as simple as. But he takes those moments. I remember him doing. We were doing a show in Dublin, and he did just a 2-card transposition type thing, where just an ultimate transpo kind of thing with a dupe.
Yeah.
But the way he did it, and with all this like movement and hold on to this, and it was a whole process and a whole presentation piece built into it. The trick probably did take about 10 minutes maybe. But the way he did it, and he did a pulse stop in the middle of it as well as part of it. And he stops his pulse and he stops their pulse. But that whole you could see that Blaine kind of element in it, of that slow it down, make it about the moments. Because if we put something in somebody's hand and it disappears or changes, that's incredible. To rush that is like an injustice in a sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And in a way, it is kind of different than other performance art, because if say there's a singer who has an Instagram profile, when they upload their reels and their videos, it is videos of them singing. Mm-hmm. They don't upload reaction videos of like, this is what the crowd looks like when I'm singing.
Yeah.
So people focus so much on their own technique and to an extent the performance, but they also don't focus on the reactive side of it, where how can you make the most out of this reaction? How can you make this reaction look the best? And that you can tell the difference when you see a TV show, a magic special filmed by someone who is shit hot at that, and a magic special where it's like, this is the amazing magician.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can even see it with like Instagram and TikTok magicians. They've gone from like just performing to camera to performing with someone beside them who's reacting to the stuff. Sometimes from amazing angles that they can experience the magic from behind the scenes.
I'm not the magic trick, and I'm like, they're all shit. They're all.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's that thing of like people realize you get more views for the reaction than for the trick. And it's the same thing that they learn on TV. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's the Blaine-ness is coming into Instagram and TikTok that it's the reactions you need. That really get it across, because you can find a thing, because even Sankey talked about it in the lecture at the Midwest convention, where he was talking about like accept the gift of the appreciation that the audience wants to give you. They want to give it to you. Occasionally you can't stamp on it for your big twist ending to get an even bigger reaction, but a lot of the time it's like I always have the thing of like people are applauding too much, so I just go, oh, that's the first time that's ever worked, and just try and cut it because I feel awkward.
Yeah,
especially at a table, everyone's looking, and you're like, oh, shucks, it's fine. But you need to like just be able to take that in and just be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I just did that. You applaud me, I'll take it, thanks.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it from all sides. If you're performing something, imagine how it would look when it was filmed as well. Like in my head, I try and imagine, what would this look like? Where would I want the beats to go if this was something that I was watching on TV? And I have things in my back pocket that I'm waiting for the moment to use. I'm sure you guys probably do as well. Have you got any friends in particular where you're like, I know that they're going to give an amazing reaction to something. I'm going to save that for maybe a release or a trailer for a show. Or there's a very, very loud Canadian girl I know with pink hair who screams over everything. And I just can't wait to film her for a trailer for something.
Yeah.
100%. We'll see her in some trailer coming out now next year. Be like, Trick's probably shit. She reacts to everything.
No, I'm going to try and get her for the Star Sign Revelation, what I'm filming at the moment.
That'd be cool. Yeah, it'd be good to get it, because you always have those people where it's like, note, remember? It's like that Cognito girl in the Cognito trailer. It's like everyone wants that reaction of like the melting face. You need to have that, because you can really see it. And it's when you see it in real life, I think, when you first start performing, like we've all seen it on TV, it's why we got into magic. And then when you get that reaction yourself, or the run away, or the scream, or the throw the cards in the air, you're just like, holy shit. It's like, it's such an amazing feeling to get.
I am. When you're planning the show that you've got coming up soon, Steve.
Yeah.
How do you handle the beats and the paces of the moments that you might not normally think about? Like, do you have ways that you handle applause?
Yeah, sometimes. Well, at the moment, because of the way that we're kind of still structuring the show, and I haven't done this show, but I've done a lot of material in this show, but there's a lot of tweaks as well. So it's not like brand new, but it's stuff that I know a lot of people haven't seen. Do you know that kind of way? So some stuff that will be in here will be stuff that I've done in different corporate shows and different private shows and things over the years, but being adapted. But I think you have to let them, we mentioned, you have to let them applause. I think it's very easy, and it's a bit scary sometimes to kind of just stop at the end and be like, okay, why aren't they clapping? Maybe they didn't, whatever. I mean, rarely happens, thank God, but like, you still have to have that, you have to let them give that space, or you don't want to rush it. But yeah, just putting in the beats at the moment is kind of like, was kind of like the icing on the cake, what we're doing with the show.
It's that staging as well of like that you want
no
that arms out.
It is one of those things you have to kind of let them and kind of guide the applause, but you can't really force it either. I know there's a lot of gags about standing ovations and all that kind of things, and they're great. Some people do build it up really, really well. Like Bill Malone has his way of doing it, and Wayne Dobson had a really good way of doing it before. Kind of force that, and you can see Darren does it sometimes too, where he's going to get a standing ovation anyway, but he is kind of guiding the audience in a way that some people are going to be standing at the end, so it's a kind of a bit of a forced one, maybe. But yeah, no, we've been kind of like ticking the box, but we won't know until there's a bit of a run of the show, But yeah, just giving them the space, I think, is crucial. If you rush onto the next thing, they won't know when to clap, and then if they don't clap, then they won't clap later because they don't know. Should we? Maybe we're interrupting them or whatever, So yeah.
I think it's that arms out moment is what you need early on in the show, of like that classic applause cue, arms outstretched, and even when it's like you're just holding two things or something like that, where you're not like applaud me, but it's the universal pose.
And if you frame your face with something, I think they're like, oh yeah, he's posing for something. There's a moment there, and like you said, you're kind of envisioning it. Like if you watched it on TV, I'm always thinking on my show like snapshots. If there was a photographer here for a newspaper or whatever, and what shots would he take? He'd take this shot. He'd take this. You know what I mean? And that's the way I kind of like see it in my head, like a storyboard in that sense.
That's why I think like the straitjacket escape is such a great example of how to get an applause cue, because you get it off over your head and then you throw it down on the floor. So you're already in like a bowing pose because you've just bent over, which is like classic applaud me moment. And then you can stand up and throw it off to the side, and now your arms are out again and you can walk forward, and you're just like, people can't not applaud at that moment because you're literally giving them all the social cues to applaud.
Yeah.
Unless they think you're a dick. So it's like it's one or the other.
Psych forcing an applause.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have to psych force and applause. There's a whole area in that actually in Darren's book, The Notes from a Fellow Traveler, on how to get a standing ovation, like how to make sure it happens. And when you're watching it, you're like, oh, I feel so manipulated now of all the standing ovations I gave. But yeah, there's so much to do. Because I even found that like I've mentioned before, I have a chair test that uses folding chairs, and when I was doing the snap shutting of them, I was getting huge reactions, and it was closing my first half, and people were telling me I should close the whole show, and it's like incredible, and like it was getting huge applause. And then when I was doing it at like corporate gigs, I didn't want to bring chairs, so I changed it for placemats, and the reaction just like lost it, and I was just like, the actual choreography of everything with the chairs was getting the reaction and the tempo of building up the impossibility of like this matches and that matches and everything's crazy. Then just going, turn them around and that matches. And it's just like,
yeah,
the actual theatrics and choreography of it is what was getting the applause, not just the trick itself, which is such an interesting like lesson in magic, that you can do the same. It's the same trick. It's just the props are different slightly. And the reactions aren't anywhere. People got it like, oh, that's neat. So it went from like, this could close your show to like, I'm not putting this in my show. It's sort of reactions, which is very interesting.
It all has to match up and gel, right? I mean, sometimes you watch a movie and there will be a male and female lead, and then inexplicably at the end they kiss, and you're like, that did not match the previous part of the movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
A lot of superhero movies.
But it has to be on theme. It has to be earned, and it has to match at least the rise and tempo, the beat. you can't. You just can't have any kind of mismatch. It just doesn't gel.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in doing stage work more or anything like that yourself, or do you like to close up too much?
Probably not stage. I do have. There's a kind of semi parlor show that has been written for a little while. I think it started getting written about a year ago, and then it's kind of been languishing whilst we're figuring out venue stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm still not entirely sure. I quite happily do parlor things. I don't think I'd ever do stage. I just don't think I wouldn't be able to get what I like out of Magic from stage. I don't think.
Yeah.
And if I can't get what I like from it, then there's no point in me doing it. There wouldn't be the passion that I think it wouldn't feel true to myself, because I like that. I like holding someone's hand. I like looking in someone's eye, and I would never get that from a stage illusion.
Yeah, because I find like for me on stage, I love just doing just mentalism, and it's kind of like stage / parlor, depending. Like it's like 100 people, it's not thousands. That sort of venue, which is really nice, and it's like because you can take that sort of, because it is the thing I find sometimes when you're in the corporate walk around gigs, that sort of stuff. You're just doing your commercial hits to get your reactions, because you need the reactions for the bucket to see you and all that sort of stuff. Get your promo shots. But then it's like when I'm on stage, I'm not doing it for money. My day job is paid for the venue, so I don't care. I just want to do stuff, and you can just be so much more arty and just like express yourself in ways, and it doesn't just have to be like hit after hit after hit. I can't take 10 minutes of just sitting with one person on stage. Everybody else in the audience is probably asleep, but I can just take my time with this person and work through it, which I think can be quite enjoyable at times as well.
But
as long as the venue fits.
Flow, you need the up-down flow. You know what I mean? You have to have that. If it's hit, you're just going to lose them. Or if it's too serious mentalism, like you can see Darren now, like he's very funny on stage. He's naturally funny. Max Maven was funny in his own way. You know, he really was.
Yeah.
Even though the magic was and the mentalism was really strong, he'd still almost make fun of himself or the audience or whatever, that they were kind of believing it or whatever. You know, so I think you need that. I can't think of any commercial or celebrity type magician or famous magician that can't add some humor or lightness into their performance. I don't think if you're going to be 100% serious, it just won't work for the average audience.
People already think we're up ourselves because we do magic, so you have to like undercut yourself a little bit with a bit of humor from time to time to show that you're not taking it entirely too serious.
If you beat it or something, they show a bit of humanity. But we're good.
Yeah, I think even if the humor is a very like naturalistic kind of, this is just what I would say in the pub to my friends, like it can come from the least fake and not cliche space, but it still has to be there. You have to be warm.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You could look cool and edgy, but people still have to like you.
You can't just be like a complete asshole.
No,
the whole time going through. Because even if you look at like Dan Sperry's show, is probably as dark as you can get, but there's a lot of humor in that as well to get it across.
Dan's very funny. Like he's way funnier than you would think he's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get it through. So we have a bit on this show as well, which we call The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is about where we ask a guest to tell a story about a performance that might have started off well, and then maybe slowly went downhill from there through the bad and into the ugly. As the consummate professional who's probably never messed up a trick in your life, do you have any that come into your mind?
I mean, let me look through the back catalogue. They say that you learn more from the tricks and the shows that go badly. So I've never been bothered about admitting 1,000 mistakes. It happens all the time. I mess up every single day. Testing things, trying new things out, even just trying to change the order of a little social set I've put together. I'll mess it up just because, oh no, the shape and texture of those tricks doesn't fit together. But actual like mishaps. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had people press on readings too much when they believe that I'm speaking to a deceased one for realsies. And that's always hard, the tightrope that you have to navigate to let them at least carry on having some kind of an experience whilst letting them down easily and downplaying any of the supernatural elements that they might be looking for and focusing on the self-reflection that they should be looking for. But The most embarrassing mishaps for me are probably the ones that do actually stem from sheer incompetence, whether it's maybe not being comfortable with a certain type of audience management or forgetting to mention crucial things in, what should be a self-working trick. I've had sweaty palms before and forgot to mention that they were supposed to turn the deck over before they did something and just completely ruined something I'd been building up for 5 minutes. Although I'm trying to think of it. So one time I was in a beer garden, literally just down the road at a pub called the Black Horse. And it's where I go to test a lot of stuff. And I also film quite a lot of stuff there because the beer garden is amazing. It's like the size of a field just filled with benches and drunk people. So you've got enough room that you can be in a quiet corner on your own and film something and it still looks nice. Or you can dive into another table somewhere and find new people and they won't have seen what you did across the other side of the beer garden. So it's perfect location for me to just test things and try out new routines. And I do remember showing a card trick to someone in there once, and I'd retained their card at the top of the deck and palmed it off. I can't even remember what the trick was. It was probably like an impossible location thing, the simplest thing in the world. And this was a very attractive lady, and that might have contributed to me palming the card incorrectly in some way. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe the moisture levels in my palm were a little bit different than usual. Maybe my finger was twitching, but somehow I did spring the card backwards when I was bringing my hand this way. And I just thought, oh no, I hope it's just dropped at my feet. She didn't hear it. She was still looking at my eyes. So I just carried on talking. I'll figure something out. I'll jazz something. I'll riff something. And then I see her look behind my shoulder whilst I'm talking to her. And I just feel someone tap my shoulder and turn around. And there is this huge guy holding a soaking wet playing card. It's like, you're buying me a drink now. What the fuck are you doing? And you can see, I don't know if the fear in my eyes was worse than the fear in her eyes, but she scuttled off very quickly. So I never got to explain, oh, that was meant to happen. I made the card appear in that guy's bag. But I did get threatened with a good stabbing and ended up having to buy this guy a drink because I feared for my life.
Wow. Yeah, but that is an impossible location.
That is impossible scenario. That is good, bad, and ugly, to be fair.
Yeah. It started off good, then it got bad when you dropped it, and then your man was ugly. So it all works out. That's absolutely bad. It's that's the worst when you accidentally like hit someone or something like that in the middle of a trick.
Dude, yeah. I've elbowed a few tits.
Oh, for people then as well who want to like learn more about your lecture or any of the podcasts that you're on and stuff, where's the best place for them to get more information?
Just in the street, just walk up to me.
Just shout at you.
Fly to Liverpool, they get it there.
Yeah, I mean, no, I keep it fairly simple. JakeKeane.com has got all the info you could need. It's got lecture tickets, links to all my social stuff. There's probably some things on there that I forgot to remove, but it's got the information that you need. At Jake Keane Magic on Instagram. And the lecture is called Orphan Source, but spelt in a way that makes it seem like a weirder title than it is.
Yeah, it does sound slightly masturbatorial.
Yeah, I do apologize about that. Also, I've just realized if you combine the two of you together, you're David Spade.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nice.
We got split apart, and that's what happens.
But yeah, JakeKeane.com. I could put up a discount code if you want to come up with a word for any of your listeners for like 15% off.
We could go with Deceive. Deceive works.
Deceive.
Yeah, because most people can't spell it anyway, so that's great.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested in taking a look at the lecture, it's on the 6th and 7th of January. You get a bunch of effects. There's 3 effects that will be emailed to you in the run up to it. You get a video recording of both nights. There is lecture notes available, and I'll put up a code for 15% off if you put it into the checkout. Deceive.
Yeah, I'll put all this up in the description as well for people to follow.
Cool, man.
So,
awesome.
Thanks so much, Jake, for coming on. We really appreciate your time. We've just done over an hour and a quarter, which is great. So thanks so much for coming on. I definitely recommend. I'll be at the lecture anyway. So looking forward to it and looking forward to getting my lecture notes.
Thank you, dude. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely, no worries. And thanks for coming on. And we'll see everyone again next time. Thanks so much. And hopefully Steve show goes well before that. See you later.
Yeah, I'll wait to see that.
Come on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
Peace.